Hi, I'm Stephen Witt, Political Editor-in-Chief for Schnaps Media. The following video interview with Republican gubernatorial candidate Congressman Lee Zeldin was done over the weekend in Coney Island. It's a short but incisive video, and we really hope that it helps inform your decision this general election day. Remember, early voting starts October 29th, and Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you for watching. New York is among the top states for people leaving the state, right? If elected, what measures would you take to reverse that trend?
First, we need to understand why people are leaving. They feel like their wallet, their safety, their freedom, the quality of their kids' education are under attack. And they believe that if they go to some other state, that their money will go further, they'll feel safer, they'll live life freer. The governor doesn't even know how to complete the sentence of New York leads the entire nation in population loss because. If you want to tackle these problems, you have to know why people are leaving in the first place. To make our streets safer, listen, we need district attorneys doing their job. I would fire District Attorney Alvin Bragg. We need to repeal Cassius bail, where we're seeing people released back out on the streets who should remain behind bars. Judges don't have discretion about things that they should have discretion to weigh dangerousness. For example, we have some lax judges releasing people even when prosecutors are asking for bail. We need to bring spending in this state under control. We need to cut taxes across the border. We need to reverse the state's ban on the safe extraction of natural gas. We need to ensure all of our kids have access to a quality education, especially all those kids trapped in poverty and stuck in a poor-performing public school. The list goes on. Identify why people are leaving this state more than any other state in the entire country, and then we can tackle it. Those are just some of many ideas to get that done.
Thank you so much. What is your plan to uphold or reduce, or deal with New York's reproduction abortion?
New York a few years ago codified far more than Roe. So when we woke up the day after the Dobbs decision, the law in New York was exactly the same as it was the day before. Nothing changed, not even a comma. The fact is that this state legislature under Carl Hastie as the speaker is not going to be sending me any legislation to roll back that law, and I understand that.
Okay, so you stick with that. What would you were in the military, and what would you say are some of the lifelong teachings you learned in the military?
You wear the 7 Army values around our dog tags. The acronym's leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. You live them all day long in your lives with your family, whether you're in uniform or you're out of uniform. I learned a lot about leadership. I learned a lot about hard work. I'm someone who believes that they say work hard, play hard, but I never quite figured out the play hard piece. I just work really hard, and we're working really hard to show up all throughout this entire state to earn everyone's support, and I plan on just keep going come January.
Now, the Democrats, it seems like their big issue is you supported Trump and you voted, you rejected the 2020 presidential election on January 6th. Do you regret that vote? Do you think it was a fraudulent election?
Well, the vote was specifically with regards to Pennsylvania and Arizona.
Right.
And as I stated then, which is the same thing today, and it should be a concern for all Americans, quite honestly, is that we will have more natural disasters. We will have more there might be another pandemic or some other type of health emergency. What we need to make sure is that we honor the part of the United States Constitution that says that state legislatures are responsible for setting administration of elections. And what happened in the name of the pandemic was that non-state legislative actors were just changing the rules themselves at the 11th hour. Can't do that. So in Pennsylvania, for example, where the Secretary of State enters into a friendly lawsuit settlement for legal women voters, it just changes how the administration of the election is conducted in Pennsylvania. You can't do that without seeking permission from the legislature. So whether we're talking 2020, 2024, 28, 32, whether it was 50 years ago or 50 years from now, the reality is that we need to honor and respect that part of the United States Constitution. There will be more emergencies. I remember Superstorm Sandy just before an election. You can't just have people who are outside of the state legislature say, you know what, I'm just going to administer the election however I want. And that was my problem then, and that's still just as much an issue today.
Thank you. I just have one or two more. If elected, what would be, it's an obvious, what would be your priorities in the first 100 days?
And it's not even about what are the first 5 things we'll do. It's what are the first 200 things we'll do. I mean, we really have to hit the ground running. We want to save our state. I mentioned earlier removing the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. My pledge is that my first day will be notifying Alvin Bragg that he's being fired. I believe that we should end COVID mandates in this state. I believe that people who have been fired should get their jobs back. Personally, I believe they should get their jobs back with back pay. But everything I mentioned as far as the budget, bring spending under control, and being able to cut taxes, to make life in New York more affordable, to bring down energy costs, everything we just discussed here in this interview, the goal is not to just try to get these items done years down the road, but to try to hit the ground running in 2023.
I see. Real quick, the Republicans have been sending immigrants here. One plan by Senator Gillibrand is to move them upstate. We're losing population upstate. Would you like to see some of those immigrants maybe go to upstate cities and to help revive maybe the economy?
Well, what was happening for a very long time was that we had planes that were bringing people into this state. The problem is that that was coming from the Biden administration. So there was no boogeyman. But as soon as they have a red state governor bringing people up by bus, then all of a sudden you have people starting to speak up for the first time. The right answer is about securing our border. The right answer is to finish construction of the border wall, end catch and release, to enforce the Remain in Mexico policy, to support the Customs and Border Patrol agents, and stop incentivizing and rewarding illegal entry.
But they could actually go to like Syracuse and Rochester, like cities upstate that have lost people, and maybe
you have to understand why have these communities struggled, and they're struggling because there aren't jobs. You have businesses that are struggling to compete. We have a state that isn't business friendly, whether it's taxes or regulation, state agencies that aren't business friendly. This is a complex issue as to why upstate has been struggling as much as it has. The state just reduced the overtime threshold on farms a couple weeks ago from 60 hours a week to 40 hours a week. We're hearing farmers are saying that they have to close as a result of that. They also take care of housing. It's not just what you pay somebody to work an hour on a farm. It's also bringing in labor and having to deal with housing as well. So if you just play out the consequences of these really bad policies out of Albany, there are many reasons why upstate is struggling as much as it is. And I would strongly disagree with anyone who would argue that what upstate is missing is just a few more people to come into the country illegally. That's definitely not what not just one particular city, but even small towns in different regions. That's not what they're missing right now to get over the top.
Oh, all right. One last question. National test results released recently show drastic drops in test results for 9-year-olds in math and reading. As governor, what education policies would you promote to reverse this trend?
Well, I think we need to lift the cap on charter schools. We need to make sure all kids have access to a quality education, regardless of race, ethnicity, zip code. There are people who they're stuck in particular areas. Poor performing public school, there's a good option that's nearby, but they can't access it. I believe that all throughout the entire state, no matter who you are, everyone should have access to a quality education. We also need to make the diploma worth more. For some kids, they decide they're not going to go to college. They think of a diploma as a ticket to go to college. So if they don't want to go to college, then they might say, well, why should I go to school? Well, we need to make the diploma a ticket to a good-paying job the next day. Get technical education, hands-on equipment, experience networking with trade. If there's a good-paying job waiting for you the next day, we also have to make sure the money is going further because we spend 2.5 times as much money as what you might see spent on a pupil in Florida or Mississippi, yet, especially amongst low-income New Yorkers, especially amongst minorities, they're being outperformed by the students in Florida and Mississippi. We need to understand why that is. It's not just about adding one more dollar and then problem solved. You also have to look at outcomes, as you ask in your question, and why it is. Make sure kids are showing up in school, they're getting a high-quality education scheme.
All right. Have you ever been to Coney Island?
Of course.
What ride have you been on?
Oh, gosh.
Give me one.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I would say that there's no particular favorites of the rides. I was just there a few weeks ago, actually, and
I mean, when you were younger, did you go with your parents? Did you ever go?
We did, but when I was there was a period of childhood where Coney Island was struggling.
Right.
And honestly, it was something where we came to Coney Island, but it wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. They've really cleaned it up. It's in great shape. Now it's at an age where, it's for my daughters to answer your question now. As far as when I was a kid, we got there rarely. We only got there a few times. We were on Long Island. We ended up going to Adventureland, and, we would go, upstate. There were different theme parks. But I gotta say, quite honestly, all across.
Are you afraid of roller coasters?
No.
Do you like roller coasters?
Sure, of